Hey, what's up, guys? This is Johnny, and welcome to episode 15 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm really excited to have Dr. Shannon Weeks here for a follow-up. And not only is it a follow-up interview, I really wanted to pick his brain on what he actually does, how he helps people. And I just got done the other day with a 1-hour consult with him, and he completely changed my life. This is something that was worth $1 million. So I want to share with you what I call the $1 million adjustment. I also want to ask Shannon. First, welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thanks for having me back, Johnny.
Yeah, no worries. I want to ask you on your follow-up updates that you've been in Chiang Mai for a few months now, and how your online business is going, and how you're making. Basically you've shifted and from Skype consults.
Yep.
And you have a master plan on how to make doctor money online, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I'm doing online consults for patients back in the States. I'm licensed in Washington and Oregon, so that's where I practice out of. And I work maybe 10 days a month, but that alone is more than enough to keep me here in Chiang Mai for as long as I want. And got some other education projects that I'm working on to
okay.
Also.
So I definitely want to ask you to kind of update us on first the 55-hour power startup weekend that we did, the projects you're working on. But first, I actually want to talk about the adjustment you gave me. Or what would you actually call that?
Well, so we gave you treated you like you were a patient walking into my office. Mm-hmm. You were someone who really didn't have any health complaints. You take good care of yourself. So it's just giving you just a postural analysis, doing some basic physiology testing, seeing what was turned on and turned off in you, so to speak, and doing things that I do to help fix that.
All right. So for those who don't know, I'm 32. I'm in pretty good health. I've been eating paleo for the past 6-7 months. I had zero health problems, no physical problems, and I was just really curious what Shannon did. Because I've heard really good reviews, and I know he's one of the best in his industry. So I said, okay, could we sit down for an hour and just kind of have a general checkup to see how my health is? And the things I discovered during that hour are going to help me for the next 10, 20 years of my life. And this is why I really want everyone listening to kind of consider your own health before you have these problems. So one of the very first things you did was you just had me stand straight, and you just looked at my posture.
Yeah, so we start from the top and look to see, is your head on straight, so to speak, meaning do you tilt one way or the other? Are your shoulders even? Is your pelvis even? When you're in a relaxed state, does one foot turn in or out more than the other? So just a physical view of your posture. And by looking at that, we can actually assess some more functional things that are going on in you.
I always assumed I had good posture. I mean, that's something I've always kind of prided myself on, and I had no idea that I even had these couple little issues. What did you see with my posture in the beginning?
Well, so the thing that stood out the most was if you in your relaxed state, if you look across your shoulders, which should be even, you had one shoulder that was slightly higher than the other, right? So you're just on a slight tilt, which is a very common thing. And people often think, well, my posture, I try to stand straight, but you can't. Your posture is a function of your autonomic nervous system, meaning when you're not thinking about it, it'll settle into its relaxed state. And in your case, you had a few things that were off. So we saw this left shoulder higher than the right.
What's crazy is after we did that, I was raving about you to a couple friends, and I had them stand straight, and I looked at their posture. And both people who had to do this, they do yoga 5 times a week. So they're really conscious about their body. And both of them had slightly higher shoulders on one side.
Right. Which means that there's a compensation that's going on there. But because they do yoga 5 days a week, that none of these problems had shown up yet.
And I think that's the main reason why I'm so happy that I sat down with you is because I didn't realize, but because I'm strong enough, because I work out and I have muscle to compensate for these other things, I'm never noticing these problems because my other muscles are strong enough to compensate for it. But as you were saying, that if one day I'm just going to injure myself and out of nowhere, and it's going to be really bad.
Yeah. So these little things, again, your body will. For example, you had one shoulder higher than the other. So there's many things that can cause that. One of the things is your lat, which is the biggest muscle in your back, holds down your shoulder. And so if that is not functioning 100%, if it's not turned on, so to speak, the shoulder will start to rise a little bit. Now, if you're working out all the time, your body will compensate. But at some point, could be this year, could be 10 years from now, and that's usually where the age factor comes in. Oh, I'm getting older, that's why I'm getting these injuries. But what happens is your body eventually will stop compensating. In the same way, like my car ran great until it ran out of gas, right? And when that moment happens, that's when you're like, okay, I'm doing a bench press, I'm doing the same exercise I've done forever, and all of a sudden I go and boom, now I blew my shoulder out, or I tore
so someone can be a healthy athlete that plays professional sports, and they can be in their early 30s, and they can be strong as an ox, and all of a sudden something happens and their career ends. And that would have been preventable if they had known. Well,
you see it all the time. You see the running back who's running down the field, nobody around him, and all of a sudden his knee boom buckles and falls out. Now he's been making those steps for his whole life, but there was a weakness in there that eventually stopped compensating, and boom, blew his knee out. You see it all the time. So
one of my friends who's going to be calling you probably sometime today to make an appointment with you is my buddy Nick. And he was on, I don't remember which episode he was, but it's Nicholas Gregorius. He was maybe episode 10. And he's a world-class jiu-jitsu fighter. And he's been doing a lot of yoga. He gets massages twice a day. So he really is in tune to his body. And when I had bumped into him last night, I said, hey, you make an appointment with Shannon, you're going to love it. It's really going to fix you. And he... at first he was skeptical. He was like, oh, like I feel pretty good in my body anyway. He's like, what did he actually do for you? And at first it was kind of hard to say, because he asked me, he's like, oh, did you feel better instantly? And I was like, yeah, I did. I do feel better. But it wasn't that. It was knowing the fact that now my body is actually working correctly, and that I'm gonna basically prevent future problems by understanding my body. Right. And I think that's worth more than anything.
Right. Yeah, just having that understanding. People usually don't go to the doctor unless they're sick. And for me, that's like saying I only go to the dentist when my tooth hurts. And that's way too late. If you go to the dentist twice a year, which they tell you to do, then you can find these issues before they show up. And in my office, when people come in, originally they're sick or they're injured. Once we get them healthy, I try to say, look, if you come in at once a month, once every 6 weeks, we can keep you in tune so that these injuries don't happen again. Or if you do have an injury, you're back in a week or 10 days rather than, I'm out for 6 weeks.
And it's a lot cheaper and easier to prevent it in the first place.
Oh, God, prevention is way cheaper than sickness, yes.
Yeah, I didn't really care. I mean, I didn't really focus on my health that much, in my 20s, because I always felt like I was healthy. I didn't really care that much. But now that I'm in my 30s, I realize how important it is. And I'm willing to spend any amount of money to be healthy and feel good.
Yeah, when your health goes down, then nothing else matters. Your business stops, your relationship stops, everything stops when your health, when you have a health issue.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. So there's 3 things that people listening right now can just do at home in front of a mirror, and one of them was just look at your posture. Right? I mean, let's say someone's looking in the mirror right now. What would you want them to do?
So they just stand in a relaxed state, look in a mirror, see if one ear is higher than the other, and that kind of give you an indication if your occiput is tilted one way or the other. Look at your shoulders. They should be even. You should be able to put a level on them. They should be relatively even. Look to see if one is higher than the other. Look how your hands stand. That's the other thing that we saw on you. When you're relaxed in a relaxed position, your hands are by your side, your thumbs should be pointing forward. That's normal. And in you, your thumbs were turned in towards you with your palms facing out. And that gave an indication of the teres minor muscle, which attaches to your shoulder, was not functioning right. And that causes that postural deviation. Look to see if one hip is higher than the other, and then see if your feet are pointed straight forward.
All right, so before we get into how you fix that, and I actually feel great now, and now my posture is normal, which is amazing. There's 2 other tests that you did that people can do at home. And that really showed. It really showed
what some physiology that was going on in you. Yeah. So one of the tests I do for every patient that comes in is, like most doctors, you take their blood pressure. But I don't want to just see what the numbers, and I want to see how your blood pressure responds to changes in position, which is normal. So when you're sitting down, your blood is pooled around your organs and away from your extremities. And when you go to stand up, you get this little burst of adrenaline, and that shoots the blood to your extremity so you don't fall over. So when you go from seated to standing, your blood pressure should go up anywhere from 4, they say 10 points. I've never seen 10 points, but 4 or more points. That's normal functioning. Most people, when I say most people, I'm saying 99 out of 100 patients that I see who come into my office, who are, again, usually coming because something's going on, when they go from seated to standing, their blood pressure drops. And I've seen it drop as much as 20 points just from going seated to standing.
So if it's supposed to go up, why would it drop?
So there's a hormone that's responsible for that. It's adrenaline, and so when you go from seated to standing, you get this the body senses that change in position and sends this little teeny burst of adrenaline that shoots the blood out to your extremities. People in the modern world are so stressed, they're eating bad, they're not sleeping enough, they're not eating well, and so what happens is the adrenal glands, which are responsible for making that hormone, get stressed over time, and then they're not able to respond like they should. And so it's a subtle thing that you'll see, but you go to stand up, the blood pressure doesn't rise. It'll rise eventually, but it might take 5, 10, 20 seconds, a minute, but that's a signal that, okay, your body, you have too much stress going on in your body. That's your adrenal glands are not responding as they should.
So when we did this blood pressure test, I was really excited to hear the results because I've been eating a lot of salt recently.
Right.
And it was really after I got into kind of the paleo eating, the bulletproof eating, where I finally realized, you know what, maybe all this talk about, avoiding salt, avoiding sodium was wrong.
Right. Well, so look, water follows salt. So if you were to sit here and just eat a whole bunch of salt right now, and I were to take your blood pressure in another 10 minutes, yeah, of course it'll rise because the water, it'll concentrate the water and your blood pressure will go up. But as soon as you go to the bathroom, it'll come back down to normal. So it'll raise your blood pressure locally right then. If you eat you have to eat quite a lot of salt to raise your blood pressure. But like, let's say you ate a whole can of salted sardines or something or anchovy or something like that. It might go up a little bit. But as soon as you go to the bathroom, it'll come back down and your body will normalize. But high blood pressure is not caused by high salt.
So for those who don't know, Dr. Shannon Weeks is a board-certified medical doctor from the U.S. So it's great actually having a real doctor tell me, Johnny, it's okay if you eat salt.
It's okay. And the right salt. So sea salt, Himalayan salt. It's a lot of the iodized salt and the potassium nitrates and things that they put in a lot of preserved food that cause problems. But sea salt, no problem. Himalayan salt, no problem.
And pink Himalayan sea salt tastes amazing.
It does, yes. And I'm a big fan of all the different French sea salts. And you can do a lot with salt that can actually do wonders for you.
The first time I've even heard of...
and can I just add one thing to this? Many people actually need more salt. People who have, for example, this test that we did where you went from seated to standing, if it drops, that's a sign of adrenal stress. One of the things I'll prescribe for them is more organic salt. So that's things like sea salt. There's a soup that you can make that's high, like celery, zucchini, other things that are high in natural sodium that'll actually help support your adrenal glands.
Well, when I was training Muay Thai full time, what I started doing is I started having a teaspoon of this pink Himalayan sea salt first thing in the morning. Right when I woke up, it has some salt, has some water, and it really helped me get over that adrenal fatigue.
Oh, yeah.
And it was incredible, and it tastes good.
Sure.
So the first time I heard about finishing salts is I had a friend who's a chef, and he had a bunch of different finishing salts that I had never heard of. I didn't know what it was, but he would say, this is really expensive, so don't, cook with it, but you can use it on your food afterwards. And it was so good. And maybe after that, I was like, I'm never going to eat this cheap Morton's, iodized salt again.
Yeah,
ever.
Don't want that.
It's, and the thing is, it's not even that expensive. You can go to Trader Joe's and you can buy pink Himalayan sea salt for $3, and it makes your food taste a million times better. It's good for you, and it doesn't raise your blood pressure.
Will not raise your blood pressure, no.
So this test, so the biggest problem is that people have, that you're saying is, when you get your blood pressure test, it's always sitting down.
Always sitting down, yeah. They're just looking at the numbers.
Yeah, and the only times I've ever gotten my blood pressure test was at Rite Aid. Right. I put my arm in the cuff, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm in the normal range.
You're in the normal range, right.
Or I'd be stupid enough to think, oh, it's low, it's good.
Right, and if you're an athlete, it'll definitely be lower, right. And so you can sit down and have a blood pressure that, let's say, it's 110/70, and they say, oh, you're fine. But let's say your blood pressure is 110/70, and you go to stand up, and it drops to 100/65. Although those numbers are within a relatively good range, that's not normal functioning. That's actually showing that there's a problem going on.
So at home, if you have a blood pressure cuff, you could do this test. You can take your blood pressure, stand up, take it again, and make sure it goes up by a few points.
Should go up 4 or more points. Yeah, okay. That's normal.
So and if it drops, bad sign. If it doesn't go up at all, not good sign either.
No, it should go up. What you find is like yours. So yours went up. Yours went up about 4 points. And I commented that in all of I've done this test on thousands of people. I can count on one hand the number of people who came into my office for the first time where that happened. Almost everybody. And again, this is America. People are very stressed out and they're not eating well. Either stayed the same or dropped. And then as they get healthier, they stick with the program, and do we do it again in 3 months? And if it's gone from dropping 10 points to now it only drops 2 points or stays normal, now we know that's an improvement. And then eventually it will, respond normally.
So it's a great, easy baseline to tell if your body's overstressed,
yes,
and if you're working towards being healthy again.
That's right. That's right.
The other test that you did, which is really cool, and this you can do at home without any equipment at all. All you need is a flashlight.
Right.
Is what would you call this?
So the medical term is, they call it the Arroyo sign. And what we do is you get in a sort of a dim room, and then we put a flashlight in your eye. Now, when you put a light in the eye in a dim room, your pupil will constrict. That's normal. And then it should stay constricted for about 10 seconds, and then it'll accommodate to the light and slowly dilate again. And that's a function also of your adrenal glands. So there's little muscles inside the pupil that'll constrict that, and it happens when it senses that light, and then you get this little shot of adrenaline that'll close the pupil. What most people is, you shine the light in their eye, it closes when the light's there, and then instead of staying closed, it'll start to this pumping action, like trying to stay closed and not quite staying closed, and trying to stay closed and not staying closed. And that's also just a physiological sign of adrenal stress. So you'll see both those things. You'll see they have this positive Arroyo sign where their eye can't accommodate to the light, and you'll see their blood pressure drop.
So if you want to do this at home, all you do is sit in a dark room,
Yep.
look in a mirror, shine a flashlight, or you can have a friend do this for you.
Yep.
When they shine the light, what should the eye do?
The pupil should constrict and then stay constricted for about 10 seconds. You should be able to count to 10. It should stay relatively constricted, and then it'll slowly accommodate to the light and get larger. That's normal functioning.
Okay. So if it's not normal functioning, it'll start kind of pulsating
Yeah,
a bit. Right?
you'll see this pulsating, or it'll close and it'll stay closed for like 2 seconds and then be wide open again. That's not normal.
So let's say they're not normal right now, right? And
Yeah.
and you're saying that
Most
majority of people.
Here's the thing about normal physiology in today's world. You don't see normal physiology. You read about it, and you have to go way back to see what normal physiology is, because typically that doesn't happen. And if you were to just look at, I'm going to take 100 patients and do that, you would think that was a normal response, because everybody does that. Well, it's not. It's typical. It's just not normal.
So what do you think about my lifestyle, my diet, that made me normal?
Well, so here's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you had done this 6 months ago, or 8 months ago, when you weren't concentrating on your health and when you weren't eating right, I can almost with 100% certainty tell you that you would have at least had those two signs. You would have that, they call it orthostatic hypotension, where you stand up and your blood pressure drops, and you would have had that Arroyo sign. But when you eat right, when you sleep, when you drink water, when you do all these normal, really super basic things, your physiology starts to normalize. And normal physiology is a healthy state. Anything that's off of that is we'll call symptoms.
I know everyone, wants to be normal and healthy, but let's give people some concrete reasons why they should become normal and healthy now versus waiting until it's too late.
Well, this is prevention is a lot cheaper than, for example, a heart attack or cancer, right? That'll set you back. In America, will leave you bankrupt. And it's these little steps during the day. So look, when we talk about basic physiology, you have to sleep. In America, the average person sleeps anywhere from 5.5 to 6.5 hours a day. There's no free lunch. That will catch up to you. That will catch up to you in systemic inflammation, too much, not producing the right amount of hormones, having hormonal imbalance. They eat too much sugar, too much sweet, too much dairy. There's, again, no free lunch. That'll affect them in it all shows up, and people rack it up to aging. Oh, I'm getting old, that's why I'm having all these issues. And aging is not a disease. It's happening because when you're young, you can respond, but you can only respond for so long. There will be a point where the straw breaks the camel's back, and then that's when you see all these sicknesses start to show up. Almost all of America's health dollars are spent on ages 50 and up, and that's not because aging is a disease. It's because they kept doing these things, and then their car ran great, and now they ran out of gas.
So the reason why I'm concentrating so much on my health is it makes me more productive and makes me happier in all aspects of my life. And if it wasn't for me really taking, bringing my health up to where it is now, I never would have had the energy or drive, motivation to build my businesses, to travel, to do these sports, to do, to really just enjoy life. And I firmly believe that I'm enjoying life a lot more now because I'm full of energy, I'm healthy, my body feels good. I'm always in a good mood. I never have to take naps.
Right.
And it's like,
because you're sleeping too.
Yeah, and it feels fantastic. And it's like, I'm getting so much more out of my day, especially now that I know, hey, life really is short and we really have to take full advantage of it. So instead of sitting in a cubicle, kind of slowly being sick,
slowly decaying.
Yeah. And I had this choice when I turned 30. I was like, okay, either I can accept the fact that I'm getting older and I can, my body's starting to break down. I'm going to get out of shape. My testosterone is going to drop, by X amount of points per year. I'm not going to be able to keep up with the people in their 20s. I can't go adventure diving or partying or all these things. Or I can say, you know what, screw all that.
That's right.
I'm gonna have my life become better than ever these next couple of years. And honestly,
it starts with your health. It starts with your health.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So if you want to make more money, you want to have more adventures, you want to have better sex, you want to have more energy, and you just want to be great to be around and be happy all the time. Just do it. And here's the honest truth, right? If you guys aren't ready to do the little things to make your health better, I can't help it. All right.
That's right.
And all the information is out there, right? If you want to eat healthy, start with paleo. Start with the bulletproof diet. Start with something kind of some natural eating. Stop smoking. Sleep 8-9 hours a night. Stop partying. Yeah. And change your lifestyle where you can get some sunshine. You can have fresh air. And if you're not willing to do that, you know what? You're not ready for it. And one day you will be. And I'm hoping.
Not only are you not ready for it, but it won't show up for you.
Yeah. And the thing is, people say my life is lucky, right? It's not. I designed it this way. I was in a cubicle. I was overweight. I was really unhappy. My health would be crap right now if I had stayed at that job. I was so stressed. I was working 50 hours a week for a job I hated. Just basically paying bills. And the only joy in my life was going out on weekends, getting drunk, and partying with my friends. Yeah. And I decided, I was like, you know what? Screw all that. Let me travel. Let me run my own business. Let me get massages a couple times a week. Let me go on these 2-day hikes, on a whim. Let me go scuba diving. You know what? Life is so amazing now.
Yes. And because you started, you made the choice. Yeah. And it didn't happen overnight, but these little things that you start to improve, and then before you know it, you have a new life.
Well, another big part of it was I never had the time or money to take care of my health. And I think a lot of people can identify that where, you're either working a lot, making good money, and you don't really have time for anything. You don't have time to exercise. You don't have time to go for a walk. You don't have time to cook, clean food. So you're getting fast food on the way to work. I used to pick up, fast food Chinese takeaway every morning before work. For lunch, I'd go to, I'd get some takeaway as well. McDonald's or Taco Bell, right?
Poor choices.
Yeah. But now I have nothing but free time. I have nothing but excess of everything. And it's because I decided, I was like, you know what, what's important in my life? I want to be able to eat healthy. I want to be able to say, you know what, let me order, let me get the organic vegetables, or let me add avocado to my order, even though it's $4 extra, because I know it's good for me. Let me get a fresh coconut, with every meal, and not think about how much it costs.
You pay for it somewhere. If you can save a little money on the front end in America by eating, these meals that don't cost anything, but you end up paying for it because healthcare is infinitely more expensive than the organic vegetables are. And so you're going to pay for it somewhere. You just have to, choose where you want to pay for it.
So I don't have health insurance. I don't have Obamacare yet. Sorry, guys. But I do. This is my health insurance. Me spending an extra $5 every day eating healthy, real food and not, cheap processed junk. That's my health insurance. Right. And I almost feel this is a better use of spending, $300 a month than it would be, buying into some kind of health plan.
So much better. I mean, the reason the healthcare is, there's prevention. There's no money for the doctor in prevention, which is why it's not focused on. The money is in treatment because treatments are expensive. And so you won't hear a lot of just basic things from your doctor. I know people who have been to the Mayo Clinic for months because of GI problems. And in that entire time, the doctor never asked them what they ate. Because what's the money in that?
That is insane. Well, all right. So in a second, I'm going to ask you about what exactly this muscle testing and this applied kinesiology is, because I've never heard of it. I never really believed in meridians or any of this, yogi, kind of new age stuff. Right. But now I'm a complete believer.
Right. So applied kinesiology is simply a diagnostic tool, and we use muscle testing to have a conversation with your body. So one of the biggest discoveries in medicine in the last 50 years is that every muscle in your body is related to an organ or a gland. So you can have muscle dysfunction not only because you injured the muscle, say, exercising, but more systemically because an organ or a gland in your body is being stressed. So for example, in you, we saw that you had this high left shoulder. And we determined by muscle testing, so we took your good side, and you're a big guy, you're much bigger than me. And when I pulled on tested your lat through its range of motion, solid as a rock. I was not going to be able to move your lat. But on the other side, when I went to do that same test, it really just took a couple fingers, and no matter how hard you resisted, it was easy to go through that range of motion. Now, your muscle worked. You can move. You can put it through its motion. But when I put a load on it, there's these cells inside your muscle called spindle cells. When they sense that stretch and they fire the muscle, should happen instantly. That's part of the neurology. Your body was not getting that signal, which allowed me to easily pull that muscle, which was also the reason why that shoulder was high. So then we have to ask, okay, why? Well, you're a guy, you work out a lot. So it could be because you injured that lat, and maybe from where it attaches or where it inserts into your arm. And what we can do is, you're an electrical system, and so you had a circuit that was not firing. So if you simply touch an area, in your case, if we have you touch the muscle where that muscle inserts into onto your arm bone there, if that was the problem, it would immediately turn that on. It was like it's like flipping the switch on. Now, I knew a little bit about your history. I knew that you had always taken care of your health, that you were overweight at some point, and usually people who are overweight at some point have blood sugar problems. So what I had you do is I had you touch the area around your pancreas, which I know is related to this lat. And when you did, immediately and you could feel that immediately that muscle was solid as a rock.
If I didn't go through this, and I didn't know you so well, and I didn't trust you as a doctor, I would have thought this was some kind of black magic. All right. It's like, when you're at the mall and people are trying to sell you these power bands.
Yeah, right.
Those, I don't know what those called.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And they do
some
these
magnets or something.
Yeah, it's a magnet band that is complete BS. And they do this test on you where they're like, all right, balance on one leg.
Right.
And then now put this band on, balance on the leg again. I honestly would have just thought it was that.
Right. But this is orthopedic muscle testing. This came from a couple doctors in the 40s at Johns Hopkins who were developing ways to isolate muscle to test for the strength in polio patients. So this is what any orthopedic doctor will use, any physical therapist use. It's just orthopedic muscle testing to assess the response of your muscle.
So for those who can't see me, I'm a big guy. I'm 215 pounds, a lot of muscle. So I'm pretty strong, and Shannon is smaller than me. So when he tells me to push against him,
I'm 150 pounds. Okay, so I'm quite a bit. Like I said, if I can move a muscle on you, then I know something's off.
And it's crazy because with my right arm, you're like, okay, push. I'm like, okay, and I just push you, and then you isolate my left arm, and you say, okay, now push. And I felt like a 5-year-old girl with no muscle.
Yes.
And I was like, what is wrong with me? It was insane. And the thing is, now I know the reason why it's so easy for me to get injuries is because I'm overcompensating with certain muscles. Like when I do pull-ups, I'm not using all 62 muscles I'm supposed to be using. Yeah. I'm using a couple big ones, and then some just aren't doing anything.
Yeah, they're compensating. That's exactly right. And that's usually when people have pain, they say, oh man, I'm really, really tight in my trapezius. 9 times out of 10 is because there's a muscle around it that is off, and the tight one is doing the compensation. So instead of doing 50-50, it's like 80-20. And the tight muscle is what gets all the attention because it hurts, right? So it gets the massages, it gets the chiropractic care, it gets the needling, whatever you have done to it. But it might feel better temporarily, but it always comes back because, in my experience, it's almost always compensating for another muscle that's off.
So why would people's muscles be off?
So it can be off for a number of reasons. One is structural, like you injured it, right? So in someone who exercises a lot, that's why you always have to ask someone's history. Do you exercise? Oh yeah, I do CrossFit 5 times a week. Likely that your shoulder hurts because you injured it in CrossFit. If I ask someone, oh, your shoulder hurts, well, do you exercise? No, I sit at a computer all day. Unlikely that's related to an injury. More likely that's related to something systemic in them. So it can be off because you injured it. It can be off because the bone that attaches out of joint. It can be off because the area of your spine that innervates that muscle needs an adjustment. It can be off because the organ that it's related to is stressed. The meridian that it's related to is off. And this is the key. So now that I know that that's off, the beauty about applied kinesiology, we can say, okay, why is it off? We can isolate the reason why, and then there's treatments for that.
As a logical business guy, right, I can listen to this. I'll be like, I don't believe it. Like, why would your muscle be off? That doesn't make any sense. Your body is designed, there's no such thing as turning on and off.
Well, no, yeah, but I mean, that's just a understanding of physiology. We have cells inside the muscle. In the middle of the cell, they're called spindle cells. They're stretch receptors that turn on the muscle. Here's the example. Have you ever seen 2 people arm wrestling, and they're just arm wrestling, and they're really, really straight, and all of a sudden one guy's, boom, just fires off?
Okay.
There's these receptors at the end of the muscle called Golgi tendons. They sense that strep, And when it gets overloaded, they shut the muscle off temporarily, and it's a protective mechanism, so you don't blow that out. In the same sense, if I were to throw you a beach ball, and you go to catch the beach ball, and the beach ball is actually a bowling ball, your hand will come back and immediately fire without you having a chance to think of it. That's the spindle cell sensing that stretch and firing it. It's a normal physiological protective mechanism.
All right. So all these medical terms, I'll leave it up to the doctors. But for me, as just a normal guy, all I know is I had the strength of a 5-year-old girl.
Yeah, right.
You did some things.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was back to full strength.
Yes.
And I woke up the next morning and I felt normal. I felt like my posture was, I actually forgot what it felt like to be normal. And it's such a good feeling.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Everybody feels normal. You ask a 300-pound person how they feel. Oh, I feel fine, because that's how they feel. Well, how would you feel if you lost 100 pounds? Well, of course they'd feel different, but that's not the reality. So we live in, and if you're a normally healthy person, you feel good. But when you know what the next level of normal is, like, oh, this is what that's supposed to feel like. I never even thought of complaining about that before, because it didn't occur to me that this was a problem.
Yeah, I guess the better word for that would be incredible. Because by me feeling normal, this is how I feel like my body should feel all the time, and I wasn't feeling normal before, and I didn't even realize what it was. So, I don't trust chiropractors. I get a massage at least once a week. And I don't trust anyone cracking my back. I don't trust any of that stuff. And luckily, I'm strong enough where when the little Thai lady tries to crack my back, I just resist her and just say no.
Right.
All right? But with you, I trust you 1,000%. So I just shut up and I was like, all right, just do whatever you need to do, fix it. And I mean, what exactly is applied kinesiology? I can't even pronounce it.
Applied kinesiology, right. So in your case, again, it's using the muscle testing just to find out what was wrong. And so in your case, we because you had that lat that was off, and again, lat is the biggest muscle in your back. And it's related to your blood sugar. When you touch your pancreas, that turns that on. So that lets me know that, okay, I know you eat well now, but for many years you were abusive to your blood sugar control system. That's fair to say, right? Just eating junk and whatever. So at some point, although that you have compensated for that very well, and I'm sure if I took your blood sugar, it'd be normal. That system in you was still. It's like you'd open the door. And we needed to close it, and it just had never gotten closed. And so that's what I'm doing, is going and flipping the switch. So in your case, we got that muscle to turn on just by I knew there was an area of your cervical spine that was related to blood sugar that I could feel was in another time zone, and we just did a little input in that to change that. And then there was a couple acupuncture points that I knew were related to that, and we stimulated those, and that was enough to turn on those switches.
It's so crazy. I mean, it's almost the same as, let's say your computer is running slow and you can't figure out why, and you have an expert goes in, opens up your computer, and realizes that your RAM is not plugged in.
Right.
And all he does is he replugs it in, and all of a sudden you're like, oh,
yeah, computer works.
Wow, this is this is how the computer should work. So not everybody has access to come out to Chiang Mai. If they do, they can email you. It's drshannonweeks.com. Mm-hmm. But if they're back in home and they want to find someone that they can actually trust, how would they find them?
They would Google applied kinesiologist in whatever area they are, and in almost every major city you'll find several applied kinesiologists. And if they are applied kinesiologists, by definition they have gone far and above their normal medical training, because it takes hundreds and hundreds of hours to actually properly learn to do it, which is why so few people actually do it.
So not only do they have to go through the normal 10 years of school to be a normal medical doctor, then
this is a separate program that's done on the weekend, so you have to be really, really dedicated. And truly, it's the people who have, like me, I came into the medical field much later, and it was because of my experience with applied kinesiology that I saw the miracles happen in my body. Then I sent everybody I knew to my particular doctor, who was my mentor, and it was such an impact on my life. I was a musician and a sound engineer before, but my experience with this doctor, applied kinesiologist, who was my doctor for 8 years, was enough to say late in life, okay, I'm going to dedicate my life to this, because this is really something amazing.
So what are some average prices back in the U.S. for like a 1 hour consult?
Well, in my office, it was $225, but for many people who have insurance, it would just be whatever their insurance price is. So typically, when you visit an applied kinesiology, you can expect on that first visit anywhere between probably $150 and $300, depending on the doctor and the area you're in.
And a lot of people listen to this. If you're already having pain, you would think, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to make an appointment right now. That's absolutely worth it. And I guarantee, if you're in pain right now, if you're not feeling 100%, 1,000%. I'll personally back your money, and at any doctor you want to choose, that's an AK, and it'll be well worth your money. But I'm sure that the people listening that don't have any major problems right now, that aren't feeling, particularly in pain, are thinking, oh, you know what? Let me save this $250 and let me not do this.
Sure, it's like saving your money until your tooth hurts.
Yeah,
it's not a good idea.
But as a guy who felt perfect, and I went to do it, it was absolutely worth it. I mean, to me, that is worth triple that price, knowing that I'm not going to have these random injuries or these nagging problems 5-10 years from now. And it's not something that you have to do every month. It's just, you can just go once, see what your problems are, and then have a basic, like oil change once a year, basically.
That's right. Get a baseline, and for people who are active, when I was seeing my doctor, I had shoulder issues and wrist issues and back issues. Just things that come from training. And once all those went away, I saw him regularly once a month, and you almost never was I injured or if I have a little thing, but I would go and he would find things that were off before they ever got injured. Oh, I see your shoulder's not functioning right. And then he became even more tuned. So I would go to him and say, everything feels fine, but I think my ankle's just a little bit weak. And he would test it, and sure enough, turn those switches on. And so I avoided all the injuries and later in life, all the surgeries that many of my friends who, also trained ended up getting.
It's one of those things where if I said to you, would you be willing to pay $300 to get a get out of sick free card right now? A lot of people will be like, nah, I don't get sick very often. But if you're hurt and injured right now, and I said, hey, for $300 you can get instantly better, would you be willing to do that? Everyone would be like, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, the problem is people don't. Yeah, it's pain that motivates.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So you have to take care of yourself first. But here's the main reason why I want to talk about this on this podcast is I want people to stop thinking things are too expensive. Right? I want people to start thinking and change your mindset and start asking yourself, what is best? What is the best? What is the best for my body? What is the best for my health? What is the best for my life? What do I really want?
Yeah, and focus on the value, not the dollar amount.
And then ask yourself, okay, this is the best. How can I afford it? Right? Instead of saying, oh, it's too expensive. So, for example, if you want to join a gym, I really liked CrossFit. It's also a very easy way to injure yourself, so kind of be careful diving, headfirst in 6 days a week. But if you want to get in the best shape of your life, I highly recommend going to CrossFit gym. It's also really expensive. It's like 10 times the price of a normal gym. You might be paying $250 a month for it. But if you want to get in the best shape of your life, it is the best option. And in the beginning, I was really reluctant to sign up. So I was like, I can go to, LA Fitness for $29.99 a month. Why am I spending $250? And then I decided, I was like, you know what? How can I afford this? And it was a completely different mindset where I said, okay, you know what? Let me just figure out a way to make $250 more a month.
That's right. And lo and behold.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's it. So I'm getting it for free now. So I get CrossFit for free because I decided, hey, this is something I want.
That's right.
And I was like, let me just ramp up my income a lot. And that's what's so great about having an online business, where if you decide, hey, I have these goals where I want to be able to spend $300 a month more to get avocado, fresh avocado, and eat all organic or eat all grass-fed meat or grass-fed butter instead of the normal crap. You can decide, hey, let me focus, on this business. Let me scale it up a little bit. Let me have $300 more a month passive income for the rest of my life, really, and you can just afford it. And it's free.
Yeah. So what is that? That's another $10 a day. If you're not figuring out a way to make another $10 a day, you're just not trying.
Yeah, and it's so insane. It's like when you break it down that way, how hard is it to make $100 a day?
Not that hard.
It's really not that hard if you break it down that way. I mean, if I asked you, okay, how hard is it to make $3,000 more a month online? It's actually very hard, right? People think about it like, you know what? I have no idea how I'm going to get started to do that. Right. But if you break it down that way, how can you make $100 a day online? You can basically sell any 2 products online and make $100 profit.
Yes.
And I do that through drop shipping. Other people do that through Kindle publishing or book sales or affiliate marketing.
So if you're in the States, you just need to sell 2 products to the approximate 180 million consumers out there.
Yeah.
2 out of the 180 million need to buy you.
Yeah, and then that's an extra $3,000 a month where you can basically do anything you want with it. Which is right. So get off your asses, all right? Decide what is important, what will make you happy. Go out, find an AK. I'll link all this stuff in the show notes. It's going to be episode 15 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. You can go on What's your website?
DrShannonWeeks.com.
Yeah, and you can check. Also, make sure you listen to episode 3.
Episode 3.
Where Shannon and his wife, Dr. Alexis Shields, was on as well. And man, take care of your health. Be good. Thanks, Shannon. Thank you not only for being on this episode, but also for really just improving my health overall.
It was absolutely my pleasure.
Highly recommended.
All right, thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.